Hey everybody. Hello. 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 Okay, let's take that out. Yep. Yep. Okay, so here we are. Welcome everybody to another live show coming to you from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So this is okay here. Hey everyone, welcome aboard. Nice to have all of you on board as usual. So we are in the live tech show number 99, one missing for the 100 show. Kind of cool. I wish I would have, given numbers to all of my shows, including the radio shows, to see what episode, how many shows, because it's cool, because it gives you an idea of how many I did now. So we know that today is the 99th of this show. So it's kind of cool. So next week, 100, pretty cool. When I started, I wasn't sure I would go so far, but hey. Flavored water, well actually it's 7-Up, Diet 7-Up and juice. Nice to have everybody here. So this is show number 99, we're December the 5th, 2017. Welcome everybody. Nice to have all of you on board and hope that we have a great show today. So, hey there Mr. Volts in Latvia says, show number 100, getting hammered on Tuesday. Well, maybe, who knows? Tim Robinson, hello there. Christine Bowman, Adan Guardado, Albert Zappa, Green 9227, Douglas Elliott. We have Bobby Burgess. We have anybody else? Say hello, please. I want to say hi to you. If I've missed anyone, say hi. I want to say hello, Cycler 39, and really cool. Oh my God! Hey Patrick Manny, 100 bottles of beer on the wall. Whoa, that's not being hammered. That's being completely wasted. So cheers, everybody. Welcome aboard. Nice to have our little show here, as usual. And hope you guys enjoy. We are, it's a hell of a week. It seems that AdSense has changed something. So I don't know if it's a bug or if it's a, it's them telling us to stop looking at AdSense for updates. But since yesterday, everything on AdSense is at 0. And you don't see anything up to, in my case, it's November 20th. Some people report they don't see it up to November 7th. When I look at mine, I see November 20th as the last day, and then I see nothing else. So, from what I understand, we don't need to worry. It's something happening. But I think it's the fact that they are, they already did one step. Because one of the things that they did a couple of years back, for those that have been on YouTube for a long time and have AdSense for a long time, you might remember that every bit of data was updated, every few minutes. You can see everything. You could compare, today with yesterday, with last week, and everything was, almost real time. Now, they removed the first portion at the top where it was giving you all of that data, and you were stuck with zeros. And that happened maybe 2.5 years ago. And so, okay, we'll try to find another way of, at first you get that little, what the hell is happening? Then, somebody said, well, we don't want you to use AdSense to view your stuff from YouTube, so we're removing the live information. So, there was a kind of a workaround. You could go into the details and say, well, I want to have the, the ads and the information from something that comes from a other website and so on, and it would actually bring back some information. It wasn't the same because the amounts were kind of off by a good 20%, but it gave you an idea of, okay, this is how much I'm making this month. And so yesterday morning I wake up and the first thing that I see is that is also all at zero. And basically I was like, okay, what's happening? Then of course I started seeing all these posts in the AdSense forum of people saying, what is happening? My YouTube stuff is at zero. And from what we see, it's zero for everybody that is on YouTube. It's not zero for people that have web pages with ads on them. These continue to work with AdSense correctly. But it seems that all of us on YouTube are reporting zero. It came back for a while yesterday afternoon. This morning woke up zero again, and it's still zero right now. So on the forums, there was one guy saying, you know what, it might be a bug, but it might just be you know, AdSense that is just you know, saying, well, Google saying, stop looking at the data on AdSense and look at your data from the YouTube analytics. Because yes, there's YouTube analytics that has tons of details of what's happening. Now, I don't have that much problem with that. The problem I have with that is that having a real-time number was kind of cool because you could always see how your day was going. So, you know, a few times a day I would look and check out you know, where I was during the day. But now it's not going to work because YouTube Analytics is about 2 days off. So for today, the 5th, we have the data for the 3rd. And tomorrow I'll have the data for yesterday. So it's 2 days behind. Meaning I have no idea how, for example, today is going. Do I have more views today than usual? What's the, you know, the CPM, the CPC, the RPM, all that precious information of, you know, and the fact that I have many YouTube channels is creating a problem because, oh, okay, so I have a YouTube analytics on each darn channel that I've got, and it's the total of all of that stuff that should give me a number of. And what's even worse is that when you go on YouTube Analytics, it tells you, oh, by the way, this channel made this amount of money this month. But under it, it says estimated. And you're like, oh, okay, so that's not the exact number. So it's kind of, you know, crazy. And I get the fact that they want us to view the stuff on YouTube Analytics. But you know, AdSense add a much more detailed report, and the fact that it was you know, like really updated all the time was kind of cool. You would know everything, you know if something was wrong because you'd see the, you know, for example, if something would go wrong, you'd know it immediately because you'd see that the amount of views dive or stuff like that. You'd see it immediately. So I have no idea if it's a bug or not, and so now everything is showing zero, and so it's like, okay, this is kind of scary, but then again, not scary because, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of posts. So what's basically happening is that everybody's saying, like, what? We don't see anything on YouTube Analytics with AdSense, you know? But when you go on YouTube, you know, for example, if I go on YouTube and I ask on one of my channels, let's say the Windows channel, oh, what's, you know, how much money did this channel make last month? And you see that detail, you know. The problem is it's really, really complicated for me because I have a lot of channels. So it's kind of difficult for me to have a clear idea of how much exactly. Where, you know, on AdSense, it was not accurate, but I would always take like 20% off. And I would be approximately where I was about to receive, you know. And there's also one thing that you notice on YouTube Analytics that is completely nuts. is you realize on YouTube, you know, on AdSense, you don't see the invisible stuff. You don't see the amount that Google keeps from the ads. And you know, YouTube is a 45-55 sharing. So 45% goes to Google, 55% goes to creator. But on YouTube Analytics, you could see the difference between when Google took his share and when Google didn't take his share. And you're like, darn, that's a lot of money that you're taking. And you know, especially because on regular media, the amount of money generally on regular media is much lower. You know, the amount of money taken for ads will be like 15 or 20% at most. So, you know, you see that Google is really hungry on YouTube, because, I mean, 45% of all the revenue is a lot. And, you know, I do agree. I agree with one thing. I agree YouTube is giving us, you know, Google is giving us a huge platform totally free in which you make money. And, yeah, okay, yes, it's the only platform that exists for that. But I also at the same time think that, well, you know, taking 45% of everything that I do, I mean, I'm creating stuff, and you take 45% of that stuff, it's kind of crazy, you know. And I for some reason, by watching YouTube Analytics this morning, I was like, man, Google takes a really huge chunk of all that money. And I don't know. I think Google should be a little less hungry. Maybe it would, you know, actually help a lot of creators do more stuff if YouTube didn't, or Google didn't take that much money off of the creators. It's just crazy. So, anyways, that's the story of what's happening, and that's you know, the only milestone that I can now follow is by the 11th or 12th, Monday or Tuesday of next week. I should see an amount appear saying how much I'm going to get this month. So if everything stays to zero, the next milestone, you know, will be there. And you know, I'll have to try to find a way to estimate at least as close as possible, because, you know, when you make $1 million a month, you don't really care about estimating your revenue. You know, it's like, well, 1 million or 900,000 or 1.2 million. You know, it's like you've got enough. But at my level, it makes a difference, because you're like, okay, how much will I, you know, concentrate, or, you know, how much will I take for this or that? Now it's like more of a, well, I'll know when the amount appears. And it's what I find sad with that. Yeah, you got an estimation, so, you know, I'll have to find a way to estimate it as the month goes on. Because, for example, you know, December usually is the best month for AdSense ever. Why? It's Christmas, so there's tons of ads. Honestly, September, October, November, and December to now is actually not too bad. Not too bad. So, what I will be intrigued to see is January. Because January will be that time where it's usually the worst month of the year for AdSense. And that's the month I always take a look at, because that's the month where I know I have to, you know, just be careful with the spending of money, because in February that amount will be small. But anyways, you know, it's crazy, and it's sad that I wish if they do give us an AdSense that will have no data except just the amounts they're going to pay us. I wish YouTube Analytics would be real time, or you know, every hour or half hour. But I wish that data would be available much faster than it is now. Because right now, for the month of December, if I look at YouTube Analytics, I know only December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I don't know about yesterday, I don't know about today. So it's crazy. So that's what's happening on my end, and basically they're all telling us, don't worry, everything should be all right. You know, it's one of the things that I've seen in the forums, and if I have to rant at Google about something, that is the major issue, is a lot of people complaining how everybody's on the forums asking what's happening, and Google ain't saying a word. We have nothing at all. We have nothing at all. Hey there, Cool Tech. I have not noticed it, Cool Tech, the community tab, but I got an email this morning saying, hey, you can now do tons of things, including make polls for your viewers and all sorts of interactions. So I'll be looking into that for sure, because it sounds interesting. And apparently I've got tons of new tools that I can use on the channel. So I'm going to be looking into that for sure, Cool Tech. Apparently I can do little surveys, ask you guys questions, and have the results and all sorts of... that could be very, very interesting, by the way. So, you know. Yeah, Vaults, exactly. There was another post today that the Vault says they're working on think of the children issue with bad videos, too busy for the rest. Absolutely. But you know, that's the worst thing about Google and YouTube, having no possibility of, you know nothing, you never know anything. You know, your AdSense one morning is at 0 and you're like, what the hell is happening? And you know, it's just crazy. And it shouldn't be like that, especially for creators. And okay, I understand there are millions of creators on YouTube, and I understand that you might not want everybody to contact you because that's too many people. But you know what? When your channels get to a certain level, I think we should have a way of contacting YouTube when we are past a certain level. We should have at least an email that only people that have, you know, they verify. When you enter the email, they kind of tell you, well, you know, if your YouTube channel doesn't have at least, I don't know, 1 million views, you can't ask us anything. You know, above 1 million views, okay, here's how you can contact us in case of problems. Because, you know, I think Google forgets one thing about this. He forgets that we are partners. And, you know, and they work hard on that name. They always put partner on YouTube everywhere. You know, so you go somewhere and it's like, oh, I'm a YouTube partner. Okay, but a partner usually has a way to contact whoever he is partnered with. Visibly here, unless you're maybe the top end of YouTube, they don't really care. And that, I gotta say, is probably what is the worst when it comes to YouTube, personally. Grapple Pearls, nice to have you here. Love you. Patrick Manny. I think I saw somebody else enter the chat room. If I haven't said hello, yeah, Josh Kinder, hello there. If I haven't said hello, please say hi. So anyways, you know, it's just crazy. Alex Tuttle, nice to have you here. And I've had absolutely no error message uploading to the latest build, Alex, personally. So let's take the keyboard, which is here somewhere. Okay. So my ranting is over. And, you know, it's the way that, you know, I think Google needs to work on its manners with its creators. And by the way, you can help me out and help me not go crazy with YouTube all the time. PayPal.me/shortwave, or if you actually donated on my Yahoo email, you can do it. Also, Patreon.com/radio and computers. You can join 10 patrons right now that are giving me a little something every month. It's much appreciated, and it helps me continue, and it helps me go less crazy when AdSense shows zeros everywhere and you're wondering what's happening with your money. So anyways, thanks for everybody that have donated. Really, really cool. And hope that maybe some newcomers will like what I do and donate a little something. Thanks, everybody. In the news, we have Facebook introducing a new feature, Messenger for Kids. Messenger for Kids. And basically, it's a new type of messenger. Basically, you know, Facebook isn't that popular below, like, you know, 13, 14 years old in general. And so I think it's a way for you know, Facebook to basically just try to lure little children there. Now, Facebook for Kids, by the way, so well, probably just to say, Great Ball Pearls, with the error you got, it's probably not that update that made an error. You had an error from another update. But if your Windows version is at 16.299.98, you're at the latest version. It installed flawlessly. It didn't do an error. You probably had an error from something else. Hey, Brian Wilson, nice to have you here. So anyways, Messenger for Kids is a controlled messenger. So it means that the parents will allow who the kids can talk to. So friends or family. Now, the thing is, there was a very, very interesting radio report yesterday. Actually, there's a VPR station, a local VPR station, and that I received, and they were talking about smartphones, kids, and school. It was very interesting because a lot of teachers called in yesterday, and they started telling everybody, you know what, I don't like that Facebook for Kids thing, because already in some classes, and one of the teachers said in his class, one out of five children actually was holding or using his phone at any moment. Now, personally, I think that if 1 out of 5 is using his cell phone in class, you're not a teacher that's good enough, I can tell you that. So basically, it's you know, the interesting part of that, and he was saying, well, you know, if you get the Facebook Messenger for Kids and all the kids can talk together, it's going to be so crazy. So you know, it's really really crazy. So anyways, the contacts need to be approved. Basically, to actually, you know, by the parents to actually be in there. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that. And I don't know. Do they need a kids messenger? I'm not sure. China is opening up. So anyways, Great Ball Pearls, just don't worry. You're on the right build with the Windows version. It's all right. Yeah. You know, Evolve says you're forgetting about the children's rights. But, you know, when you're in class, I think the teacher has the right to say, hey, your phone is nowhere to be seen. I think that should prevail over your having your phone in the class, you know. I don't know. Andrew Arias, nice to have you here, Andre. Nice to have you on board. So, China, of course, had a little update on, you know, its use of the internet and the way things go. And of course, one of the things that's scary about China is that you start thinking about, you know, the right to see whatever, or, you know, blocked websites, or, you know, you look at the regulations. Every VPN needs to be approved by the party to actually be there. That kind of means that you can have a VPN only with websites that are blocked. So anyways, some people showed up actually when they were at that conference on the internet. Some really heavy people too. Google CEO was there, which was kind of interesting. Tim Cook from Apple was there. Also, there was Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, and they talked about how, of course, things need to be, you know, clear and open, and everything needs to be right. But so the Chinese president actually said that he wants an open internet for everybody. So an open internet for everybody. Huh. Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? So, you know, thinking about how they block things, about how in the past year they've been really, really tougher on regulations. I don't know. It's a free and open internet in China. Huh. I'm sure somebody will let the Tiananmen Square stuff go through to make sure that China and the Chinese people know what happened. If that happens, then I'll say that it's open, you know. As Brian Wilson says, it's open as long as you don't tell people what, you know, let people know what's out there. Yeah. So, you know, it's really crazy, really crazy. And you know, I really hope that the internet gets much better there, because I mean, it's sad to see a population that is, you know, doesn't have, you know, it's not a totally closed thing. I mean, you have access to the outside world to some point. But the problem is, you know, I think it's important for our population to know a lot of bad things that happened. You know, I can tell you that it's really crazy about how, you know, the control, and it's sad to see one of the sad things, and you know, I understand you want to make business, you know, but one of the things I find really sad is companies like Microsoft and Facebook and Google that, you know, will kneel down in front of the Chinese government and do what they want just to make money. You know, that's really, really, really sad. At the same time, it's, you know, billions of dollars probably. It's crazy. So, what do you guys think about this article that I was reading? So, a entrepreneur said that in the next 5 years, we won't be using much of this anymore. Cash money to buy stuff. And he says that why not start phasing it out, since everybody will pay with, you know, in an electronic way. So, you know, I'm going to say one thing. I am one of those, I'm a tech guy, and I can tell you one thing. I want to keep my cash. You know, cash is still the only way you cannot be tracked, really. No, someone gonna tell me, yeah, well, there are ways. Well, no. In general, if you pay for cash for something, you're pretty much an anonymous buyer. And you know, I like the fact that that exists. Now, some will say with cash you can hide the cash, so that means you can, you know, have everything paid in cash and not pay your taxes. That is true, especially when you're a self-employed person. I can tell you it's easy to it would be easy to do that. But I think cash is the best thing. It's not tracked, and there's no possibility, you know, paying with your credit cards, paying with your electronic gadgets. It's cool. I mean, when I tap my phone on, you know, the terminal at the grocery store and does beep beep, and it's like everybody's looking at me because hello everybody. Sorry. The buffering is quite normal. I actually pressed the one and only key without looking. The one and only key that actually turns off the streaming. So, whoops. My fault. I ain't touching anything anymore, okay? I promise. So, anyways, I agree that, yes, electronic payments will go, you know, will be probably something in the future. I agree that it's getting more popular and it's really easy. It was really easy. So, anyways, it's I still think we need to hold on to cash. I still think we need to work in making sure that cash is our main little, you know, money, the way to buy things. And one thing that I'll always say, you know, I can tell you if something would happen, a big war or whatever, your electronic payments will be worth zero. What's going to be worth something is that paper, much more than anything else. So, anyways, it's crazy. And you know, there was a interesting, you know, I read something very interesting, and you guys, you know what, you should read it. I received I received a letter from the bank, and it has this little booklet with I don't know how many pages it has, but it's written very small, so you need a magnifying glass to read it. And it's all the conditions that apply to when you actually put money in the bank. And they kind of tell you in a very different way, but it kind of means that the money you put in the bank, if something bad happens, they don't owe you that money. But because the way they actually say it is when that money is in the bank, it's not yours anymore, it's the bank's money. And when you read that, you're like, okay, so that means that basically, well, you know, I'm losing my money if something bad happens, which is pretty much that, honestly. You know, here in Canada, we have a rule, a law, and here in Canada, if a bank goes bankrupt, does bankruptcy, you have up to $100,000 saved. So, say I would be a millionaire and have $1 million in one bank account. Basically, if the bank files bankruptcy, I will get back only 100,000 of it, and it's not even the bank that's paying. It's the Canadian government has signed to do this. So it's like, okay, so the bank doesn't give me anything. So I got $1 million in the bank goes bankrupt, I get $100,000 back, but it's the Canadian government that's giving me the $100,000, aka every Canadian citizen is now giving me a little bit of cash. I was kind of, what the hell is that? So, you know, the bank doesn't care, and the bank can lose everything, and what the hell? Everything goes. Government will take care. Just crazy. You guys, when you get that, you know, from time to time, you get that little something from the bank, or even when you go to the bank, they have all the rules. I tell you, read the rules. And not only you don't understand half of them, but the ones you do understand, you kind of feel like, oh, the banks finally are just, you know, let's make billions, and hey, if we lose everything, we don't owe anything to anyone. What the hell? And keep your questions for net neutrality for when I'm there. I have I'll have a little moment of net neutrality here. So keep your questions for net neutrality time. I'll answer your questions on the net neutrality with that. Great Ball Pearls, your S7 Edge is just saying that it's running out, or you're using a lot of space on your phone. So it's just saying, well, you could free up to 7 gigabytes of space on your phone if you just leave the pictures in OneDrive. That's all it's saying. So basically, you know, I have a part of what I do is like that. On my S7, what happens is I have, you know, I take pictures and videos all the time, and they upload to OneDrive automatically. So I've started, like, you know, choosing what I keep on my phone, because there's a lot of phones. So for example, if I take, you know, 20 pictures of the same thing in different angles, I'll sometimes go back on my pictures and remove the ones that are not nice and just keep the most beautiful ones. But what's cool with that is I know that on OneDrive, the 20 pictures are there. It doesn't remove them from OneDrive. So it's just saying that it wants to free up space for you. Do you have a memory card in your Edge? Maybe it's saying that you're getting low on memory or something. So anyways, keep the net neutrality stuff for the net neutrality topic. So we'll stay in the same topic. So ads on your lock screen. Yes, I do use Dropbox. I use Dropbox quite a lot, actually, for different little things that has to do with my business stuff. So, okay. Some companies making apps, so some devs were saying, hey, we have the possibility to not only put an app in the phone of people, but when it's on the lock screen, you can put an ad there and make money, which I don't like, because it means, okay, if you put an ad on the lock screen, you know, it's kind of crazy, and it's kind of an invasion of privacy, you know. So it's something that I find that Google did a right thing here, saying, wait, you know what? You're not going, we don't want to have ads on the lock screen on your phone, on Android, ever. We don't want apps that do that, and we don't want to see that. So I think that's a good decision out of Google. No, Grapple. You can erase your phone, and every picture will still be in the Google Photo or whatever place that you have them automatically sent to. It does not delete them at all from that place. It only removes them from your phone. So I think Google took a good decision here in saying, no, you can't have ads on the lock screen on Android. We don't want to see that. Pretty much all I had to say for that. This one's interesting, and you know what? Once in a while, you know, you get this faux pas from a company, and you wonder, was I a little idiot to think that company doesn't do bad things? So it all starts with Google in the UK. So in the UK, so anyways, everybody that has an iPad or an iPhone, most of them use Safari for browsing because it's the default browser, because it's there. And it's okay, you know, you use Safari, and one of the latest versions of Safari on iOS gives you the option of do not track. That means do not track. I don't want you to track me when I use the browser. But the problem is Google found a loophole and said, oh, well, we can track in another way with Safari. So why not do that? Well, now they're kind of in hot water because they're being sued for like $1 billion. Why? Because if Safari had the do not track option, well, it was illegal to track people through Safari without telling them, by the way, we're tracking you on this website or on this whatever. So Google kept it shut and tracked anyway. And you know, it always brings back to me every time I see people on the channel telling me, oh, well, you know, you're innocent because you're you think that company's not doing anything bad with your data and whatever, and you know, you don't know what they're doing with their data. And you're absolutely right. We absolutely don't know what companies do with the data they get. They don't tell us really. They kind of hint maybe, but you know. So anyways, Google is not supposed to be a bad guy. You know, they do have the motto, do no evil. Well, that was kind of evil. That was kind of evil. What are you doing tracking when you have a do not track? It would be the same if I would turn off tracking on a browser and every website still tracks me. It's kind of illegal. And you're like, no, I'm blocking the tracking. I'm not supposed to do it. So that's going to cost them a lot of money. And let's stay in the UK if we want to. So this story comes from a long time ago. Basically, a few months back, I had a news item about, you know, Ireland and Apple. It came out that Apple paid nothing in taxes to Ireland, and that Ireland had agreed, well, yeah, it's okay with us. Don't pay taxes. We rather have you here and create jobs. Which does give some taxes in some way, because the employees that work for Apple there, of course, pay income tax. But still, you know, I personally have a problem with that, because when a company makes so much money like Apple does, you need to pay your taxes, really. So anyways, in this case, the Irish government said, yeah, that's okay. But the European Union doesn't actually think it's okay. The European Union said, wait a minute, you cannot do that because we have rules, and the rules basically state that you can't really give such advantages to a big company like that. And it was getting out of hand. It was getting really more and more complex in that issue with the European Union, Ireland, Apple. Apple yesterday said, okay, look, we're going to pay $15.4 billion in back taxes to Ireland, and we hope that the European Union will be okay with it. Now, the other question after that is 15.4 billion the just amount of taxes? Is it not enough? I don't know. But we'll see where, will that do something? But what that causes as a problem? We were learning a few weeks back that Apple in the United States paid a very, very small amount of taxes on revenues that are billions and billions and billions. And one of the things that's interesting in there is that when you see that happening, I think it's kind of a little difficult for a lot of people to understand why, in Canada and in the US, Apple doesn't pay the billions of dollars of taxes that it needs to pay. Just crazy. So, just crazy. Hey, Great Pearls, yeah, the little snowmen. They are in effect made of metal. They are metal snowmen. These are old ornaments that come from my, you know what? They come from my mom and dad. We had those when I was about, a teenager, 14, 15 years old. And I've always kept them, because I thought that it's not just the Christmas decorations, it's also a souvenir from my young days. And it's like keeping a little part of mom and dad. Did I get my 2018 calendar yet? No, I'm waiting for the pizza place at the corner to have them. They have very, very beautiful calendars. We have a pizza place here that sells Peruvian chicken, which is absolutely fantastic. And they have wood stoves for pizza, and it's a great place. It's really very good. And every year they have calendars, and they're always extremely beautiful. And I went the other day at just passing in front, and I was looking, and I saw one of the guys from the restaurant, and I said, "Oh, don't have calendars this year?" And he said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get them in a couple of weeks, just before Christmas." So I should have them. I should have my calendar at least. And I'm waiting also for Bobby and those that know that I radio stuff. I've sent a few emails to some stations saying that I'm listening, and I asked them for calendars to see if they have any. Last year, not last year, the year before, I had a beautiful calendar from Voice of Vietnam. Hopefully they might send me one. I'd like that. So, the only other calendars, if I buy a calendar, usually I'll buy what I'll usually buy is a astronomy calendar. So, astronomy calendar. So, yeah, pharmacies, local pharmacies often have a little something. Hey, Kimberly L, nice to have you here. Okay, it's time, guys. Net neutrality. Net neutrality. So, net neutrality. What's hanging on the right? Oh, that's a little Chinese thing. No, not even. It's. Oh, I think that comes from Cuba. I think it's a friend of mine who went to Cuba and brought back that little thing. It says Cuba on it, so I'm pretty sure, if I remember well, this friend of mine had brought me that little thing from Cuba when you spent a few weeks there. So, yeah, everything's going well, Green 9227. Having a lot of fun, just trying to find the right schedule, but going well. So, net neutrality. Net neutrality. First, there's a lot of course, we knew it wouldn't be that easy. We knew that before that guy, Hajit Pai, said, we're going to vote against. and that the vote is going to be on December 14th. Basically, there's a lot of things happening right now. There's a New York judge that wants to start a kind of a lawsuit, and that lawsuit would be to kind of show the world that the FCC's comments were flawed, that internet service providers actually cheated. That guy said, oh, well, I don't look at the comments, I don't care what the comments were, which personally, okay, and I'll be very honest, I think it's an insult. I mean, if that guy says, I don't care about what the comments of the US citizens on net neutrality, I don't care what they said and I don't care what people want, I find that an insult. So it's kind of, stupid. Patrick Manning, well, there was they were asking for everybody to give their opinion on should we or not call for net neutrality. And what happened is that it was terrible. Half of the comments are robot comments. That means, internet service providers actually, put little machines to send, 10,000 or 1 million comments of no net neutrality and blah blah blah. And there's a lot of things happening. And the general comments from the people, they're not listening to them, and the majority of them are for keeping net neutrality. The other thing is there's 28 senators. There's also within the FCC, we learned today that there's some people that are just like, no. I don't want this to happen right now. So a lot of people are asking for a delay for that vote. His response to that is, oh, well, it's just those net neutrality guys that just, are basically scared and don't know what to do. We're not going to delay and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah. So, if we don't know yet what's going to happen. We hear little things here and there that, companies, we have some companies that have idiot comments on that. We have, of course, Comcast saying that, hey, no need for net neutrality. You can trust us. We'll do what is right for you and your internet. Yeah. What could be done with net neutrality being repealed? So, okay. Net neutrality, I agree with part of the comments. I've heard a lot of comments, people saying, well, like, basically, on net neutrality, there were no rules before 2015, pretty much. It didn't really go bad, except for the fact that a lot of ISPs are kind of not spending the amount of money they need to spend to make sure that the internet is at a proper speed for some people. One of the things we also see is that there's a lot of, really a lot of I just got distracted by the chat here. So anyways, a lot of, throttling going on with like Netflix and YouTube. A lot of people in the US are complaining that Netflix or YouTube actually freezes or has, buffering, lots of buffering. So now net neutrality happened. It was an Obama thing. A set of rules to make sure that everybody's treated equal. I am totally for that. I mean, every country around the world, many countries around the world don't have net neutrality. you know, and I think it's something universal. Every country around the world should have net neutrality. I think every citizen of every country in the world is entitled for a good internet connections. You know. Vault says money not spent on infrastructure goes into fat bonuses. Yeah. Now, what is next? What can we hear? You know, one of the things we hope is, you know, I was listening to Leo Laporte with his This Week in Tech show on Sunday. And, you know, I mean, he's got his own thing, his own network that he streams on the internet. And he's, you know, he's kind of seriously thinking about that because, I mean, he knows that net neutrality rules, when they're gone, can make the internet go in a direction that will be a problem for his network. Will also basically, you know, YouTube is another problem here. You know, we constantly hear ISPs saying how YouTube takes too much bandwidth, and that it's not right, and that YouTube should pay for the bandwidth, and that's been for a long time. And you know what? Netflix actually does. Netflix actually pays millions every year to internet service providers so that they don't slow down the speed. So what, you know, what should be done? Because what's scary here is, yeah, but if you do, you know, will you start charging for YouTube? Will you start, you know, just saying, well, if you want to have YouTube, it's extra, so that means YouTube views would go down suddenly? We're not there for now, but nothing prevents them from doing something like that, honestly. And for VPNs, it won't work because what will be done through VPNs they will not know you're on YouTube, but they will know you are a big data hog, because anybody that watches YouTube all the time, Netflix all the time, it shows your account, your data goes up a lot. So a VPN would simply, you'd have throttle. So, you know, they could do instead of, so for example, let's say you're not doing a YouTube tax, you could do a YouTube tax in another way. And that already exists. So you could say, for, you know, $29.99, I'm going to give you 20 gigabytes of data a month, which is not a lot if you start watching videos online. And then you're going to have the $59.99 one, where you got 60 gigabytes a month. And you'll have the $89.99 for 100 gigabytes a month. It is indirectly a YouTube and a Netflix tax. Because if you watch Netflix and you watch YouTube, you'll pay for the highest amount of data a month. So there's all sorts of ways they're going to trick. So for example, that would be a great trick to just say, well, they're not going to do it through the VPN because you got just 20 gigabytes a month. It doesn't change anything. So I don't know. Vault says ISP should be a utility service, heavily regulated, no other stupid buy or IPTV instead. I agree that internet is a utility and should be, it should, you know, I mean, it's really, really, it really needs to be, you know, thought of as a different thing. I mean, today without internet, you are handicapped. You know, I just look at the little lady that lives right next door to me. She's 85 or something. And basically, she knocks on the door here and she says, oh, well, I have to answer this, or I have to fill out this form for the government stuff. And, well, it's on the internet. And I'm like, well, yeah, we'll come over. We'll do it. And it shows you that, well, you know, unless you got the internet, there's a lot of things you can't do. So, you know, it's crazy. Ain't not the one. Take it easy. Stay safe, please. Well, Green 9227, we're really far from that right now. It's not a problem right now. Basically, you know, first of all, my views are, yes, there's a lot of views from the US, but I get views from around the world. So, you know, and we actually don't know what direction everything is going. Honestly, even if net neutrality disappears on December 14th, we just don't know exactly how it's going. So what's going to happen exactly? We'll see, you know. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Volts. It should be something that, you know, like electricity and telephone. So, you know, yeah, Tim, I'm a worldwide brand. So, you know, there's a lot of UK viewers, you know, and I was looking at the stats when, just talking about stats. I was looking at the statistics on my on this channel while I was going through YouTube analytics, trying to figure out how I can derive some kind of, you know, of number of how much money that channel ranks in. And so basically the top three countries for this channel is the US first, the UK second, and India number 3. For some reason, I'm very popular in India. And on the radio channel, it's the UK number 1, Canada number 2, and the US number 3. And I'm surprised, because I'm like, Canada is such a small population compared to the US. For some reason, Canada and UK are more popular on the radio channel than the US, which is 3rd, which is kind of weird. So, anyways, Patrick, you don't like that guy? He's got such a sweet face. We should actually, you know, for the 100th show, oh, that would be good. If I could make out some kind of picture of that guy and have darts, and I'd play darts next week on that guy's face. Maybe that's gonna bring problems. I'm gonna get arrested by the Trump police or something. That would be nice. With darts. Oh man. How about that Mac problem, which was fixed the next day, but man, root, no password, let's just do it 4 or 5 times and hey, I got in. Pretty much what's happening. So Tim. So anyway, it's you know, it's not a small thing, it's a huge thing, and it was very interesting. I was listening to man, I forgot her name. On Twitter she's called @filmgirl, and you know, we're talking about a little bit like, you know, in the Microsoft side we have the insiders, and we have, you know, teams of people that are watching, checking for bugs and problems. And one thing that came to mind to her was, how can a bug like that go through testing? Because she was saying that she had heard that that bug is actually been going through testing all the time, and that that bug was there even in the first builds of Mac OS High Sierra, and they never had that problem fixed, and they were wondering how can something like that go through, which was a really big one, really big one. So hey David Walker, nice to have you here. So you know, it's kind of interesting. And then we learned that when you apply the patch, if you upgraded your Mac OS to 10.13.1, it would break the patch and your root entry problems came back. But at least Apple did say, well, you know, okay, if it broke, that patch is going to come back and install. But anyways, it's a pretty huge problem. I think, you know, it brought up a lot of questions at Apple. There's some people saying, well, don't you think Apple is kind of being a little sloppy now with security? Kind of, when we see this, it's kind of, you know, we're starting to wonder if maybe they are. So, I don't know. It's really, you know, really interesting. And shows that Apple has flaws also. Google Chrome will be doing something that every browser should have done for the past 20 years. So, of course, you know, you guys probably know that when you install a third-party, say the most popular software that do this is antivirus. So you install Norton. What it's going to do, it's going to inject code into your browser for an add-on that will actually supposedly keep you safe in your browser. So basically what's interesting is that as a tech guy, I know that that way of, you know, injecting stuff in the browser was often a problem. Over the years of my tech job, I don't know how many times I said, oh, well, your internet is broken because of the add-on from McAfee or the add-on from whatever antivirus or whatever other software that it changed everything in your browser. Now that's why it doesn't work well. So Google is now saying that's enough. The next version of Google Chrome will be the first one that will not let third-party software install crappy stuff within the browser. And the reason why is because they say we get tons and tons of feedback of people saying Chrome crashes all the time. And when we look at the data, it's the antivirus third-party software that crashes, not Chrome, but it makes Chrome crash. So they say they don't want to have that happening anymore. So antivirus software or whatever program you install will not be able, starting with the next version of Chrome, is not going to let any software install something within the browser. And I think that is absolutely, you know what, this should have been done years ago. And every browser should have had that. I mean, so many things. I remember when I used to have third-party antiviruses on my machine, the only thing that I would do all the time, I would remove that add-on from the browser. It's like, I don't want to have that. It's crappy stuff anyways. Slows down the browsing. And yes, makes it crash all the time. I can tell you that. So, you know. So, yeah, there was, Alex Tuttle says, I do not have an Apple phone, but will not have one. But you just know that, yeah, there was a boot lock screen problem also, absolutely. You could actually easily go around the boot lock screen. So, you know. Green9227, do you know if they will live stream the vote on net neutrality? Absolutely not. I'm sure they're going to do it in the dark room where it's dark. And actually, when they're going to do it in that dark room, because you can't read, it's going to say, you know, whatever choice you have is going to be, you know, ditch net neutrality. So whatever you want to choose. They don't want us to know anything. I mean, that's crazy. Well, you know, Alex, net neutrality will affect it affects a lot of things, and we still don't know what's going to happen. We still don't know how it's going to, you know, how all of that is going to affect. So I think before we can talk about it, we have to see what they will actually do. And these companies may have a lot of ideas, but it's, you know, will it happen or not? You know, that's where I think competition is the best thing you can have. If you can live in a place where there's a lot of competition, love it. It brings down the prices. Companies give you more service. Why? Because it's the only way they know that you're gonna be their customers. So you know, there are things that I like for that. As for the rest, it's kind of crazy, you know. Yeah, Tim says, I hated the early days when you would you know, find weird add-ons. Oh man, I remember. Remember, guys, there was that era when there was like so many toolbars, and people would go on all sorts of websites, and finally you'd go there and you're like, okay, you have only this part of the screen that you can view you know, that you can view the web. Here it's like 15 toolbars. I remember going to clients and there were toolbars, tons of toolbars. So you know, yeah, Grapple Pearls, everything is done in the dark these days, unfortunately. Net neutrality rules, Andre, is okay. Let's rephrase this. Okay. Net neutrality vote is for the US, but there's a ripple effect around the world also, because, an example, say that because of net neutrality, even though here in Canada our government did say no, here we're gonna make sure that the net neutrality thing stays. We had the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau here actually talk about this last week and saying, no, here the internet is going to stay regulated, and you're going to need. And actually, there was a article, a local in the local newspaper here. There's an article saying that we're something like 300,000 Canadians that have no internet service, or very small speed internet service, and they are forcing the internet service providers to, in the next year, give them high-speed internet. So, say that in the United States, YouTube gets throttled suddenly. It affects not just Canada, not just the US, sorry. It affects me. It affects any YouTuber in the world that has a potential YouTube website or YouTube channel that is popular. Why? Because a lot of the views are driven from the United States. So it has an effect. It can have an effect worldwide. The other thing about that is that you might have other countries that it's going to give like ideas to other countries, saying, hey, look at the US, what they're doing, man. Maybe we should do the same here and leave the ISPs do whatever they want. And, you know, internet service providers can easily, I can see them, you know, paying cash and saying, hey, if I vote, you know, I'll make sure you get you get, you're going to be president, and in exchange, why not break the rules a little bit, So even though the change is US, it can have tremendous effect around the world. Windows 10, 600 million copies are running in a month. So, okay, we got a new number last week, was Wednesday. Paul the cat is sleeping in the bedroom. Poor little guy. It's really stormy here today. It's like, 80-kilometer-per-hour wind and rain and everything. And the poor guy has been asking me all morning, wants to go out. Then I open the door. He just looks out and he comes back in because, like, no, I'm not going there. So the poor little guy is like, I had to play with him. Actually, this one of the one of the first times it ever happened. He actually came in my office this morning, and he climbed on the chair, and with his paw, he was touching my chest and looking at me saying, "Come here, I'm bored, I want to do something." And I actually had to play with him for half an hour before he left me alone and said, "Okay, I'm going to go sleeping now." So it's like, oh, okay. So I had to play for half an hour this morning just with the cat to make sure that he's pleased and happy. So yeah, it gives you an idea. So so now he's sleeping. And I'm not going to wake him up because with that type of weather, since he can't go outside, he's going to ask me for another half an hour. And I know he's going to ask me for an half an hour a little later, so... Bobby, the first pass of the International Space Station was around 2 p.m. here. It was over the Atlantic, and it was a very low pass. I tuned my VHF to the VHF frequency. I didn't hear anything. Now there are, after the show, there's like 3 or 4 International Space Station passes, and I will try them because Slowscan TV is supposed to have started at 1500 UT today. So let's cross our fingers. I want to try to make a few videos, and I don't know, Bobby, if you're on my VHF UHF channel. I've been posting a lot of little videos of satellite reception. Really a lot of fun playing around with the satellites since yesterday. So so I have lots of little videos on satellites that I've posted. So Windows 10, 600 million devices monthly are actually on Windows 10. This is real numbers. Real numbers. So it's devices, so it's not all PCs. Somebody told me, well, 600 million PCs. No, not really. You got to take it into account. There's Xbox, there's IoT devices, there's all sorts of little things. So PCs is a big chunk. It's really the big chunk of it. But 600 million, I think, is a fair number. It was interesting because I read an article from Paul Thurrott. He was mentioning that Microsoft, when Windows 10 was started in 2015, said that in mid 2018 there would be a billion devices with Windows 10, and everybody looked and said, "Whoa, ambitious, a billion devices." Well, it's something that was almost impossible, but now that we're at 600 million, it's actually not that far. Maybe in mid 2018 we'll be at maybe 750. So honestly, they weren't that far off. And Paul Thurrott had a very interesting take on it, saying, you know what? Part of what's missing in the billion number for Windows 10 he thinks that at the time they were thinking they would sell maybe tens of millions, if not 100 million phones with Windows 10 on it. And that went to the grave, which means, okay. So anyways, I think Microsoft must be pleased at this. 600 million is not bad. And that was a number they gave the shareholders. Windows 7. Two little things with Windows 7. As we were talking about Windows 10 taking 600 million, a few websites, including one is Net Market Share, that looks at the numbers for the amount of people, the amount of usage of a operating system. It's been actually taken a little down because there were some months we were seeing that Windows 7 was higher, sometimes lower, sometimes it would gain. And they said that one of the things that they had not taken into account and that they could actually look at, they went back through the statistics and they noticed that there were a lot of bots, a lot of computers that were actually on the web just, going there all the time and filling out forms and stuff. And they said, well, if you take out the bots and look at really official numbers of users, Windows 7 is actually lower than they previously thought. And actually they readjusted the number to 3.5% lower, which puts Windows 7 somewhere at 42%, 43%, somewhere around there. And the number means that also I think Microsoft will be happy to know that it maybe is a little lower than they actually thought. Now there's really weird numbers that I took on the statistics of Windows this month that I just they're so weird on the when I did a video yesterday. But I think it's fair to say that Windows 7 will have less PCs around the world than Windows 10 somewhere early 2018. I think we're at that point, that tipping point, where Windows 10 is now going to be the Windows operating system, the most popular one. But Windows 10 will still stay very popular for a while. In January next month, time flies. Next month we'll have 2 years left of life for support of Windows 7. So that's kind of interesting. 2 years. It is still used a lot, and frankly, it's okay. I get that question regularly. Oh, what do you think? Should I move to Windows 10? It's like, just use whatever works for you, and that's mostly what I want to say. The other thing with Windows 7 we are learning is there's a glitch that a lot of people are having apparently. So I tried it here on 2 of my machines that has Windows 7 on it. I don't seem to have that problem, but a lot of people are reporting that the Windows 7 updates aren't working. The Windows update is not working. I've read one report that was saying that they think it's a timestamp problem. So meaning that they actually update the timestamps of some files, meaning that when Windows Update checks their own stuff, they can understand from what time period it is and look at your clock and kind of say, yeah, it's okay. We can ask for updates now. And what they think is happening is that there's a timestamp that didn't update for some machines. And one of the reasons they think that is that they actually took one computer that wasn't updating and they changed the date before March 12th, 2017, and they asked it to do a Windows Update. And instead of giving the error, it actually checked for Windows Updates and said there were no updates available. So they think it's a timestamp issue, possibly. I'm trying to get more details because I want to post a fix video on the Fix-It channel I have. So anyways, we'll be checking that out. Do you think, so Tim Robinson says, do you think Microsoft will employ further strategies to make people move to Windows 10 sooner rather than later? I think they already are, indirectly. If I were Microsoft, I would take the opportunity to say, and in January, I would take the opportunity to say, hey, 2 years left for Windows 7 users. How about we give you another free year of update directly from your Windows 10 machine? So that could be interesting. And just make sure that you make everybody understand, Windows 7 is going to be obsolete in 2 years, only 2 years from now. Maybe that would push some people, but you know what? I don't think Microsoft will do anything of that. And I think they're going to let things expire by themselves. Simply, and I don't know what was that weird sound, but anyways. So I think they're going to just let it, David Walker, can't see them extending support for Windows 7. Green into 7, we thought of extending support. They won't. If there's one thing that's really sure, they won't. They will not extend support of Windows 7 at all, because their strategy is clearly go to Windows 10 and that's it. And with Windows XP, one of the things that kept XP alive was the amazing hate that Windows Vista had, because when Windows XP started being phased out, of course, a lot of people said, well, okay, well, we got to do something about it because, we're still in the high numbers. And there was a lot of machines, like in Windows 7, there was a lot of machines running. But Microsoft did not have a truly clear strategy of, I want to have everybody on Windows 7, for example, at some point. But Microsoft badly wants everybody on Windows 10. There's no hate. There's no real hate going on against Windows 10. Yeah, you see the user here and there that says, hey, I'm never going to go to that operating system, spies on us and whatever. Yes, we do see that from time to time. But in a general way, most users with Windows 10 are kind of happy in Windows 10. I was just looking at my little, people around me last weekend. Asked my family, what do you guys think of Windows 10? And what do your friends think of Windows 10? And the overwhelming response was, I like Windows 10. And everybody I know seems to like Windows 10. So there's not any hate there. So I think Microsoft is going to surf on the, you move to Windows 10 and that's it. And they don't want to have, they're already in a cycle where there's so many things they got to take care of with all the different versions of Windows 10 going away and upgrading systems. They don't want to have Windows 7 over that also. And they're still going to continue with Windows 8 until what, 2022? So I think Windows 7 is not going to have an extension for sure. Alex Tuttle says if they want to make Windows 10 better, they need to make a modular Windows 10, not all the stuff that gets in it and everything. One of the ideas between Windows 10 is that they want to try, and that's the Andromeda project, try to get a Windows 10 that they can remove modules for, depending on where you're going to use it. IoT, Internet of Things. Today I was watching Mary Jo Foley on her blog. Was mentioning that the first ARM devices with Windows 10 on it were coming out today. But most of what's going to be out will be in the spring, apparently. So the idea behind this is that's what they try. That's the goal. That's what they would like to have. a modular Windows 10. But it's not going to be like you think, Alex. You know what? The Windows 10 for PC is going to be that full big thing, and I don't think you will be able to remove modules out of it. The only places where Windows 10 will have some modules will simply be the Windows 10 for these specific devices. Those will have that module removed. But I don't think they will have a modular Windows 10 in the PC itself. They're going to keep that big thing with all of the features, for sure. So, you know, it's really, so 2023 481. Well, thanks to Green 9227. Hey, Lady Catherine, Miss Lady Catherine, how are you? Nice to have you here. Yeah, it depends on what field you are, False. You know what? You're in the tech field. So if what I would notice is a lot more IT and computer literate people have a rant against Windows 10 than the regular people themselves. And you know, it depends on, but at the overall field, you know, Vista, you had that I hate it thing going everywhere. There was a feel of I hate that operating system. With Windows 10, you get some voices of I don't like it, but it's not a hate thing. We don't see a general hate to Windows 10. It's not the same thing. It's different from Vista. So what else do we have? So Miss Lady Catherine, nice to have you here. Pretty cool to have all of you on board. What else do we have? Windows 8 was actually, you know, Windows 8 was a hated system, not because it was bad. Do I have other news? No, here we go. So you're watching the, hey, show 99. 99. Next week, something special. What? We'll see next week. But next week, something special is going to happen. We'll be at 100. So everybody needs to be here next Tuesday. So anyways, you know what people hated of Windows 8.1? It was very simple. Microsoft did one major mistake, and it's to think that everybody would be on touch devices. Because frankly, it was such a step ahead. On touch devices, Windows 8.1 was really great. Honestly, it's a very stable, Windows 8.1 was a very, very stable operating system. I'm one of those that liked Windows 8. But the problem is, it's like I always say, changing everybody's habits is the worst thing that you can do. Windows 8 did that. Change everybody's habits. You know, in Windows 8, I was still doing a lot of tech jobs. I don't know how many people I installed, you know, that, what's the name of that software that you actually recreate a regular desktop environment like Windows 7. I would install that. It's the only way they would want and accept to use it, and then they would say, oh, now it's great. Now I like it. It had to look like Windows 7 for people to like it. But for anybody that had a tablet or touch device, Windows 8 was actually very nice. And, you know, the first real PC environment for touch, it was really nice. Bobby Burgess, what is satellite program you got for Linux? I want to download that. gpredict. I'll put it in the chat, Bobby. gpredict. There we go. Depending on if you have a app store in your Linux operating system, Bobby. If you have an app store, look in the app store. Mine, I'm using Elementary OS right now. I went to the application store that's in there. I typed gpredict and it was available within the store itself. If you have Ubuntu, it's in the store also. So it might already be in the apps If not, you can download it from the website. Works well. I like the PC1 Arbitron much better, but it's not bad. It's not bad for a really not bad for a Linux thing. Vault says, I hate Vista was a user hate. I was pretty similar to Windows XP x64. Yeah. It was, you know. And one of the things also that people don't like is when the, you know, when the core of Windows changes too much, you lose more compatibility with older stuff. So there were, you know, there were levels of hate. One of the things that I always remember is I remember that Windows XP was, people didn't like it at all. Windows XP, you know, found its love later, but when it actually got out, people didn't like it because Windows XP changed the core of how you install stuff, and all the software from Windows 98 or Windows Millennium would not work well in Windows XP. A lot of the software, not all the software, but a lot of it. And there was a lot of hate. It was like, oh, well, I can't use my Windows 98 thing there. Yeah, because the core has changed. But it changed for the better. It changed to be more stable. It changed to, you know, for a lot of reasons. But Windows XP was hated at the start. It became loved afterwards. Windows Vista was hated and is still hated today. Windows 8 is hated because of the major change it brought to the PC. People didn't like that. So, you know, it's not hated in the same manner of Vista. It's hated because, God, I don't know what to do. I'm lost in that thing. What's that screen with tiles? What the hell am I doing here, you know? So, Alex, you mean versus 8? Vista versus 8? It's not the same kind of hate, you know? It's different. Tim Robinson says, in that channel I mentioned last week, Joe, that was supposed to plug your show. I don't know if it happened, to be sure. A few people were laughing at Windows 10. Then tinfoil hats were mentioned. Yeah, you know. It's funny because when everybody's at Windows, when everybody's at you know, in Windows 10, they're all going to say, well, that's okay. You know. What else do we have? What else do we have? Yeah, vaults. That's pretty much it. But it did help stability immensely. Absolutely. I mean, Windows XP was the first real rock-solid Windows. You know, until Windows XP, we did not, except for Windows 2000, but that I always put kind of in a different manner because Windows 2000 was more of a designed for enterprise and not for regular folks. But if you take Windows 2000 apart, and you know, and all the enterprise and server stuff, the first real consumer-grade operating system for Windows that was rock solid, that did not crash all the time, was Windows XP. Up to Windows XP, every version of Windows crashed all the time. I mean, Windows. I remember Windows 3.1 crashed all the time. I remember Windows 98 crashed quite regularly. Windows Millennium crashed on me at least once a day. Then came Windows XP, and it's like, wow, does a blue screen of death exist? It was rock solid. It was amazing, but it was very different. It changed the rules of what could install and everything. So, just crazy. What else is there? Gripple says, I was hoping Viper would show up today. It was good to see him last week. Yeah, it was always fun to see Viper. So what else do we have? If Microsoft had a start menu in Windows 8, would we have Windows 10 as soon? If Windows 8 would have had a start menu like Windows 10 has, probably we would have had Windows 10 quite fast, because there's a cycle that Microsoft always wanted to keep. And until Windows 8 and Windows 10, they were at the old 2-year cycle, trying to get a new system every 2 years, 3 years tops. Windows 8 arrived, no start menu, people got mad. Maybe it made it faster. And I think it did make it faster, because I think it's obvious when you look at Windows 10 from Windows 10 for in July of 2015. Basically, it was, when you compare that first version of Windows 10 with today what we have, it's obvious that there's no it's obvious that there's no that it was unfinished at some point. There are a few things that weren't there working. Edge was totally unfinished. I think they pushed it out faster, even though they might have needed to wait a little more, because Windows 8 didn't, a lot of people didn't like it, probably. Yeah, David Walker, absolutely. And Windows 8, the only thing that made people go mad was the fact that there was no start menu, and they didn't like the new style. Because for the rest, rock solid, and it was a good operating system. Gripple Pearl says, I kind of think Windows 10 is kind of at its height, with nothing more to be added to the OS that will make a difference, especially since they have abandoned the consumer. Well, they kind of not abandoned the consumer, but you know, there will be new things in Windows 10. But if we look at each version, you know, if we look at anniversary update, then creators update, then fall creators update, Redstone 4, for the regular folks that use a PC, honestly, I don't think nobody sees a difference. No one sees a difference. They're like, why the hell did it take 2 hours to install? I have the same thing. It's more enthusiasts like us that see that there's new stuff in it. But anyways, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, fast boot was kind of interesting. And it was introduced in Windows 8. Kind of makes the startup a little faster. It's, in reality, it's kind of a trick, because it just takes less time to show you that, oh, we're kind of ready, when in reality it is just ready. It's showing you that it looks like it's ready, but there's still a lot of things that need to be loaded, and but it's doing it in the background instead. But you know, yeah, well, you know, Gripple, it's they're all there. I mean, in a Fall Careers update, even if you don't see a lot of things, you know, I did have multi-part video on you know, every new feature of Fall Careers update. And actually, when I did review the Fall Careers update, that's when I kind of noticed, man, there's a lot of new stuff in here, but a lot of new stuff that nobody sees. Timeline is going to be interesting, David. Yeah, absolutely. That one is going to be. You know, I can't wait for the build this week, because we're going to have our first timeline feature. That's going to be kind of interesting. Another one, you know what sets the feature about sets is something that intrigues me a little, also. You know. Patrick says, how many have you used 3D Paint? I think I used 3D Paint to make a demo of it in my one of my first videos, and I've never touched it again. No problem, Bobby. And it's create your own sets, by the way, Bobby. You'll see that you'll be able to create your own sets of satellites. I've created like 4 different sets. I've created one for amateur radio satellites only, one for ARBCOM, one for NOAA weather satellites, another one for the Cosmos Russian low Earth satellites, and so on. Yeah, they don't really advertise a lot of it. You have to, you have to read the blog posts and stuff. They kind of tell you, well, look at what's new, but you got to read stuff. And by experience, I can tell you that most people don't read anything. So, most people don't know. Well, I actually like the Paint 3D also, personally, but it's not something I use. So. Yeah, Gripple Pearls. The only thing she noticed doesn't have to click on numlock. Yeah, I think it kind of understood that, well, if you use a pin or numbers, numlock should be on. I actually have, it's funny because it's something that I've never done a video about because I never thought about it, but there was a very easy way to just in one video say, oh, you want to have your numlock key always turned on? Here's the fix. So here's how to do it. Hey, Sean Robinson, nice to have you on board. Patrick Manny says he likes the photo app, Groove Music, and movies and TV apps. So, Alex says, what I do see is every build would tend to build ISO file, get bit and more space taken up. 1709 3.54, 1703 2.38. Okay, a little bigger. They add a few new features, so I guess and that you kind of confirm what I always thought, it probably is a little bigger because they add new features. They add new features means, well, somewhere it gets a little bigger, but it won't always get bigger because I think the way they want to do it is try to keep it within a certain size, that they don't want to go more than that, basically. Hey, Gregor Dokledjan, nice to have you here. So 17046 on the slow ring. So that means we should have some kind of image soon. I hope they're going to have the insider build tomorrow. I want to see the next one for sure. Green 927, do you think they will do double upgrade for people who are anniversary update to get them to the fall? That's what happened to me. My Dell machine, that is the one that I always leave for guests because it's the one I don't use. It's really there for guests. It showed up and said, hey, there's a feature update. It brought me to creators update, and I had to do it. I clicked Windows Update right after the update went through, and it said, oh, fall creators update is here. And basically I did it did a double update. Hey, Sam Gibson, nice to have you here. Is that I should call them Grateful Pearls? How to clean install Windows 10 for kindergartners. Oh man, kind of funny. So, looking at different little things here, we have an email from our friend as we were talking about Tommy. We have a few questions from Tommy. Clean install by numbers. Alex, you know that upgrade thing from Windows 8 to Windows 10? It's that upgrade from Windows 8 to Windows 10 is, we don't know when it's going to stop, the free upgrade. So it might be, you know, it might stop now, tomorrow, in a month. It might still work next year. We don't know. The last that I know is that it's supposed to still work. So what else do we have? Well, I have a general Twitter account, CoolTech, which that I use for everything. So I have one called at Shortwave Radios, for those that want to join in. So this is where I will post radios. This is where I will post both stuff for the radio channel that I have and the tech channel. So news, you know, live shows, things I want to share, whatever, I'll share them. Both of them are shared there, and I call it kind of my radio and tech channel at the same time on Twitter. Green927 says having updates every 6 months will divide a Windows 10 user base even more. Well, if things, you know what's interesting is we know that we're at 20. Last number we had is 20.4% is now at Fall Creators Update on Windows 10. It's going faster. I think they're trying to get. I think they try to get to a point where they have the least amount of people in different versions of Windows 10. I think they're trying to make it faster now. So let's check out. Tommy, Viper Boy, is sent me a little email saying that, first of all, he actually upgraded finally his laptop computer that we was talking last week. He finally upgraded from 7 to 10. He didn't see the license for his Windows 7. You got to be careful because it gives you licenses of many things. You might have clicked the wrong thing and gave you a license for something else. But the Magical Jelly Bean actually does give you the Windows 7 license, the one that's in your machine usually. So anyways, he called Microsoft and they activated digitally, so it works fine. And I'm wondering about what type of machine it is. Dual core CPU T4400 at 2.2 gigahertz with 3 gigs of RAM. So one of the questions, he says, wants to know if you should upgrade it. There's really nothing you can upgrade in a laptop. I mean, first of all, the CPU most of the time is soldered on the board, so there's no CPU upgrade possible in a laptop most of the time. Even if there was a possibility, moving say from 2.2 to 2.8 gigahertz, you won't even see a difference in performance. 3 gigs of RAM on Windows 10, I think is enough. I mean, it's an old machine. I do not think you should buy RAM for an old machine. At 3 gigs, you know, I don't think you'll see much of a difference between 3 and 4 or 8. And even then, one of the things of a laptop from that age is very important. A lot of laptops that have that age actually are stuck at 4 gigabytes maximum that the BIOS can read. So it doesn't give you more than 4. So there's really nothing much you can upgrade in there. And it's, you know, it won't make much of a difference, honestly. And keep that money for, you know, a future computer instead, for sure. So so you say it was shipped in 2010, so you know, It's an old machine, and as for surge protectors, you know, depending on where you live, power surge protector bars are good for if you have, you know, when you live in a tropical environment or a place where there's a lot of thunderstorms. It's not that bad, but one of the things that you got to be careful about the power surge stuff, they aren't miracle devices. You can still have. So basically, you know, that laptop, leave it like it is. You know, you'd be wasting money upgrading it for something that would not show any performance difference, honestly. Really no. Vault says, fine varies so much. I am spoiled. If my system does not have perfect response times, it increases my blood pressure. Yeah, well, I understand. I do understand. So take care, Cool Tech. It was nice to have you on board. So, you know, it's in those old things, I got to tell you. So, yeah, the Xbox One X. Actually, the reason why the Xbox One X doesn't work well on a surge protector, because when you have a surge protector, you actually take away a little bit of power that's going through there. There's like a slight resistance, if you want. Basically, the the Xbox already has one inside it. So what's happening is that if you have a surge protector and it draws a little too much current, Xbox One X does have problems. A lot of people are complaining that their Xbox One X doesn't start. And of course the fix for that is remove it from the surge protector and plug it directly into the wall socket. It's as simple as that. And it works fine. So, you know. But, you know, surge protectors are useful, but you're better with a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply, which will power your computers for just a little bit, give the time to shut them down. These are much better because they have a battery and the filtering of the current is so much better. Just a surge protector, and you know, they all vary, I can tell you that. Surge protectors are not all good on the bars that you buy, I can tell you that. But you know, it's for filtering, from some type of filtering. It isn't bad, you know, it will filter, but like I say, they are not miracle devices, I can tell you that. Are they working on things to improve the Invoke and bring more skills to it? I haven't heard anything lately about it. It's supposed to happen, Grapple Plus. I heard there should be an update before year's end, and yes, it is planned that it will have more skills as time goes by. So be patient. You know, it's just been released, so they're working on it. You know. Yeah, well, they do protect somewhat, Vaults, but it's, you know, to give you guys an idea of what I think of surge suppressors, I actually don't even look on the box if there's one or not in a when I buy a you know, a power bar. I do buy quality power bars, so most of them on it says, hey, surge protector. But honestly, I don't care if there's one or not. And the reason why, I've never seen a difference from people plugged in on the power bar with a surge protector or plugged in directly into the wall socket in computer breakouts of, you know, power supply blowing up from thunderstorms and stuff. So personally, I don't care on power surge bars. It's not something I will look for. If I have it, for example, this TV is, everything here is not plugged in a power surge. In my office, everything is on a power surge. But the only reason is the power bars that I bought in my office are power surge protectors because they had that when I bought them. But honestly, you know, it's really nothing that I don't use much of that, you know. And if you really want to have a protection, like I said, the UPS is better because that is the best filter you can have. That you are really protecting your stuff. And plus the bonus that you will have a you know, a little bit of power to shut down everything correctly if power goes out. So and you know, one of the things you always got to remember is it's really, you know, really it is more than a surge protector, vaults, because it filters better because of the battery inside. Maybe not all of them, but they are some of the best. They're better with a UPS than a surge protector bar, that's for sure. Ripple Pearls saying that she's getting used to turning my lights off by voice, keeping rolling over in bed and reach to turn the lights off and go now. That's kind of cool. It is kind of cool. If you are getting a new computer, $2,000 budget, just you know, look around, look at the web, and you know, choose it more on your feeling of what you want to have inside, the type of CPU, you know, Intel Core i7 and stuff like that. Wood Beast on YouTube, nice to have you here. And I just got an email from from Frank, and Frank says, yeah, okay, talking about the YouTube stuff and AdSense monetization at 0, and yeah, it's we don't know if it's a bug or if it's just they decided not to show the data anymore in the live data. So we just gotta guess, you know. We just gotta guess the you just gotta guess the that you are making money or not. Hey, Stockton, Illinois, Sam, nice to have you on board. Just let you know the St. Louis Blues are in town. Cool. Cool. So, hey, everybody. We've been on for 2 hours and 5 minutes, or almost 5 minutes. Hope everybody has enjoyed our show today. So, this was the show 99. So, next week, show 100. I've not totally examined what I'm going to do next week, but it's going to be a special show, and so we'll do a little partying next week. I might not do a lot of tech stuff next week. I think it's going to be more like a party mood and party time, and yes, I'll probably have some wine or something, and I don't know, we'll see what's gonna happen. I think it's gonna be an interesting show. I will think about it and get the Santa suit dry cleaned. Actually, the words that I need with the Santa suit is I actually need a new beard for the Santa suit for Christmas, for sure. So show us the bloopers. So we're gonna take out. I'm gonna try. I was thinking about another thing. Trying to think about the funniest stories of the tech guy and try to bring them out. So I'll be thinking about that also. I'll write them down to make sure I remember them. But like the funniest stories of a tech guy over 20 years, we'll have something. And so hope everybody enjoys our show. So hey, this show is every week, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2000 hours Universal Time. Take care, everybody. The Windows Insider Hour will be next Thursday. I can't, I would have loved to have Gabriel join in for the 100 show, but he's going to be, he finishes work at 5 p.m., so we'll be 2 hours into the show. The only thing I would see is if I really do a long show, but I don't know. He's going to be working, so it's going to be kind of complex. I'll see what I can do, but I think it's going to be complicated. So anyways, take care, everybody. Windows Insider Hour coming this week on Thursday, 2000 hours UTC. Friday, we have a special satellite, tuning the satellite show. So if you want to listen to amateur radio satellites and all this stuff. And of course, if you are on this show, every Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2000 hours UTC. And take care, everybody. Love you all. It's always fun to have you guys and girls on board. Stay safe, please. And see you soon on the channel. Bye-bye now. And I hope you're going to be there for the 100 next week. Bye.